If you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. Jim Rohn. DC Tribe, Josh Thomas. Love the fact that you're here. Hey, I want to tell you something important to me. Just recently launched a personality profile assessment for entrepreneurs. It's called the Do Zone DNA. And I encourage you to learn more about that by going to dozonedna.com, and you can sign up, take that test, and get clarity on how you get stuff done so that you can build the world around you for optimal productivity. Once again, that's dozonedna.com. Today, I want to talk to you about something my mom said to me 30 years ago that ultimately affected my life in many unintended ways. Now, my mom is a sweetheart. She listens to my podcast. She's probably heard every single one of them. And she might be my biggest fan, okay? So it's fine. Hey, Mom, how you doing? Love you. But I want to talk about something that she said to me when I was a child and impressionable that ultimately really had a huge impact on me in a somewhat negative way, actually. And it just kind of goes to show how important it is to encourage people and be careful not to create false limits. And here's what she said. She said, "Well, he's an athlete, honey." That was it. One sentence affected my life tremendously. Well, he's an athlete, honey. And I'll tell you the context. I'll set the stage for you. Okay. And so I've never really been a, what you would call a muscular guy. I've never been super in shape. I'm in pretty good shape now. Probably the best shape in my life. But when I was a kid, I was kind of pudgy and fat and short. And, I had big squirrely cheeks and little, I didn't have a beer. I didn't drink beer, so it wasn't like a beer belly, so I had like a soda belly, if you will. I was just like a portly little bastard, But in sixth grade, I decided, or my mom decided for me, and she said, "You know what? You're chubby. I'm going to put you to work." And so she took me down against my will and signed me up for City League football. And I did not want to be there. Didn't want to have anything to do with any of it. I'm like, I don't like running. I don't like football. I don't know anything about it. And so I ended up starting playing, and I actually liked it. The coaches liked me. I was smart, and I was aggressive. I wasn't super fast. And so I ended up being an offensive lineman. I was the center. For anybody that doesn't know football, it's the guy that takes the ball from the line of scrimmage on the field and hikes it back between his legs to the quarterback. And so I was the center. And I ended up loving football. And I stuck with it and then went to middle school the next year. And it was pretty much the same kids that I was playing with. So we all knew each other. And there were a couple of kids that, there was one guy that was, we were 12, and this guy was already probably like 5'9" or taller. He was a big, tall guy. And then there was another one that was super muscular. There was another one that looked like he could probably eat me if he was mad enough. And so there's all these people I'm surrounded with, and we would go and we would do these conditioning drills. And we would run on the field. And since I was a lineman, I didn't ever usually go and catch the ball. I would just hike it and then push back defenders. And I was pretty good at that because I had a lot of aggressions to get out. But I noticed when we were doing the conditioning drills and the running, there were always at least 4 or 5 kids that just smoked my ass. They just smoked me. It wasn't even close. I wasn't really tall. I have these tiny little legs, and they're just like pumping as hard and fast as they can. And I remember one day after practice, I was getting in the car, and I said to my mom, I don't remember all of their names at this point. Aaron, John, Jack, Kenny, those guys. Like, man, those guys are so fast and they're so muscly. I just don't know how I'm supposed to keep up with them. I don't know how to catch up with them. And my mom, just doing her best to comfort me and make sure that I felt okay and accepted, she said to me, well, he's an athlete, honey. They're athletes. They probably go home after this and they do more work and they work out more and they exercise and they're just naturally gifted and they're just built different. And I thought to myself, like, oh, okay. And so there was this little bit of sadness that came into my mind at that moment. It was just a little sad, like, well, why can't I be an athlete? But okay, I guess that's not in the cards for me. I guess I'm really not made to do this. And so I finished out that year in football, and it was good. We were a good team, for middle schoolers, and we were competitive. And I finished that out, and I really enjoyed the camaraderie and the people I was around and being a part of something bigger than me. But I had started playing in the band, and I was pretty good at that too. And so when 8th grade rolled around, the coach called me up and said, hey, Josh, just wanted to see if you were looking to play football again this year. And I said, no, I don't think so. I think I want to concentrate on being in the band. I think that's more important to me. And he said, okay. And so I stuck with the band. And I actually did follow through with that. I went to college for it. I got a degree in education and music education. I ended up being a band director for several years. And it was a very fulfilling career, for the amount of time that I was doing it. But those words kept sticking with me. Well, he's an athlete, honey. And I kind of let that define me for the longest time. Like, well, he's an athlete, which means I'm not an athlete. And it actually became painfully apparent one time. And I let this beat me. This was me. It's not my mom's fault. She was just doing the best she could with the information she had. But there was this one time that I lost my starting position because I missed a game. If you miss a game, man, that's not good. I was a starter. I was a center. And the backup guy was also in the band. But I was smarter and more aggressive than him, even though he was a little bit bigger than me. Actually, he was a lot bigger than me. But I had the starting position because I worked hard for it and I kept it. And then I missed a game one time because I was sick. And because I missed the game, he swapped the starters. And so I had to work extra hard in practice to re-earn that position. And I made it undeniable. That, nope, that's my position. I'm getting it back. And I pretty much had earned it back. And we had this weird tradition where on game days we would wear our jerseys to school. And if you had a girlfriend, then you would let your girlfriend wear your jersey during the day, as kind of this. It's kind of like this ritual type of thing where you're like, hey, yeah, that's my girl. She's wearing my jersey. And so I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, but there was this girl I had a huge crush on. She was really cute. And her name was Holly, by the way. I'll leave her last name out of it. But so I let her wear my jersey, and then I went to go get it back, and she's like, oh, well, let me wear it home. I'll bring it to the game tonight. And I'm like, are you sure? Oh, yeah, sure, I got you. I'm like, okay. And so I remember watching her. She got on the bus. She rode off wearing my jersey. And I'm like all proud. It's like, oh, that's my girl. That's my future girlfriend, And so I show up, and our team colors are purple and gold. Okay. And so I show up, and I didn't have my jersey because Holly had it. And so our practice jerseys are white. And so I show up in my practice jersey waiting for her, and I show up, the coaches see me, and they're like, where's your jersey, man? I'm like, there's this girl has it. She's going to bring it. She'll be here in a minute. Are you sure? Yeah, no, she's coming. And so game time creeps closer. No Holly, no jersey. I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, game starts. No Holly, no jersey. Obviously, if I don't have a jersey, I can't get out on the field and play. So I lost my starting position and never got it back. And I'll never forgive Holly for that. Thanks, Holly, for that one day. But here's the thing that I noticed. So Shane was the other guy. And Shane gets the starting position. And he grows like a foot. And he gains like 58 pounds or something. And he becomes this massive person. And so part of me was a little bit relieved that, like, okay, well, maybe I'm not meant for football. That's just not my thing. Because obviously these people are giants, and I'm never going to be a giant. I'm never going to be in shape. I'm never going to be this. I'm never going to be that. And so I let that become my reality, and I found excuse after justification after justification for saying, I'm not an athlete. Those people are athletes, not me. I'm not made for that. I'm not cut out for that. I'm not built for that. And I believed that for decades and decades, until I really started paying attention. And I started realizing that there are a bunch of really great football players who are superb athletes, who are playing at the highest level of the NFL, who are about the same size as I am. They're about, I'm 5'9", okay? They're about 5'9", and they weigh about the same as I do. Maybe they're a little bulkier because they put on some muscle or something like that. There are people playing basketball at the highest level in the NBA who are the same height as me. They're the same build as me. I started realizing, well, maybe I could have been an athlete if I'd have just applied myself. But I stopped because I believed in the filter that somebody else put onto somebody else. Like, it wasn't, my mom did not say anything about me. She didn't say, Josh, you're never going to be capable of what these men are capable of. She never said that. What she said was she labeled somebody else and said, those people over there are athletes. And that means that they are superior physically. That means that they put in extra work and et cetera, et cetera. And I, by default, through no intent or fault of my mother, I applied the rest of it by saying, well, if those people are athletes, then that means that I'm not. If those people are out and going and doing more work because maybe their parents are more demanding of them for their sport, and my parents are not so demanding, then obviously that means that I'm not capable of that because I'm putting that responsibility on somebody else. Now, that's a pretty hard thing to battle and struggle with when you're 12 years old, to figure out your own responsibility for things. But it's one of those things that left a lasting impression on me. Self-inflicted. But I had this influence to believe that those people over there are different. And I interpreted that by meaning that, well, if they're different, then I must not be the same. I must not be capable of that. I must not have the same resources as they do. I don't have a dad that is taking me out and helping me with strength training. So obviously, I'm not capable of the same things that they're capable of. That's what I taught myself to believe. That's what I allowed to be my reality. Well, he's an athlete, honey. And so what's the lesson that we can get from this? And for me, the lesson's very simple. The entire reason that I shared this with you today is, first and foremost, be careful what you say to those who are listening. Be careful what you say to somebody who's paying attention to the way you see the world, because you have no idea what kind of impact it will have on them. Whether you intend that impact or not, make sure you understand that your words carry power. That's one lesson. And the second lesson is, don't let anybody tell you who you are or who you aren't, or where you belong or where you don't belong, or what you should be doing or what you shouldn't be doing. The only person who can determine any of those things ultimately is you. Regardless of how somebody else sees the world, regardless of how they see you, regardless of how they see other people or another group, the thing that matters the most is, what do you do with your life? Could I have gone and been a star athlete? Probably. Would my road have been much tougher than these other guys who were athletes? Most definitely. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the pedigree. I didn't have the genetic superiority. I wasn't that tall. I wasn't that muscly. I'm just a chubby white kid with, comb over hair because I loved Superman back in the day. I didn't have anything going for me except for the fact that I wasn't afraid to go out there and get pushy and aggressive and just go as hard as I could. But there's some merit in that. Maybe that could have translated into something and I could have been an athlete. Now, I don't regret not becoming an athlete. Okay? It's not like, Mom, you ruined my dreams. I don't regret it at all. Because seriously, Shane, who took my starting position in 7th grade, by the time we graduated high school, he was a mountain of a man. And I was pretty much the same. I mean, I got a little bit taller after 7th grade, but not a whole lot. I'm not a short guy, but I'm definitely not a tall guy. And I'm definitely not a bulky guy. Okay? So I don't regret the decisions that I made, but I keep going back to that moment where I felt like, well, those people are different than me, so I must not be capable of it. And at this point in my life, I make it clear to myself that there is nothing I'm not capable of. I started learning how to play guitar in my mid-30s, and I'm like an okay guitar player. I'm not amazing. I started learning how to salsa dance in my late 30s, and I think I'm actually a pretty decent salsa dancer. I started learning Spanish when I was 35. I'm 42 now. I'm fluent in Spanish. And so there's nothing that you're not capable of. Don't let anybody, including yourself, tell you that you can't do something, or you're just not made for that, or, well, you should have done this differently, and, oh, if only, if only, if only. Don't let anybody do that for you, because you are capable of anything that you want to be capable of, as long as you put in the effort and you have a purpose for it. I wanted to learn Spanish because I wanted to immerse myself in the culture. I wanted to learn guitar because I love music. I wanted to learn how to salsa dance because it's a way for me to express myself artistically and connect with other people. And so I immersed myself in that because I had a reason to. And I had dedication to becoming proficient in that because it's enjoyable. I didn't let somebody say, well, you're just some hillbilly from Kentucky. If you were gonna immerse yourself in Latino culture, you should have done that, when you were a kid. It's too late now, dude. But it's never too late. Don't let anybody else tell you who you are and who somebody else is that you're not. That's going to wrap up today. One more reminder, DoZone DNA is out. Go to dozonedna.com and take your own personality profile assessment for entrepreneurs and get a clear picture of how you get stuff done so that you can focus on becoming the best possible version of yourself. I'm going to wrap up for today. I would love it if you could subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss any future episodes. Head over to thedozone.com for more tips, and also there's a link to the test on there as well. And until next time, hey, go do something.